The Farlands are a phenomenon of Minecraft world generation that occur 12.5 million blocks away from spawn. There's the Farlands, the Farther Lands, the Farther Lands, and the Farthest Lands, along with corner variations for all of them, and they all occur for distinctly different but still similar reasons. The Farlands haven't always looked like this though. If we remove the fix that got rid of the Farlands in Minecraft Java Beta 1.8 and use the Cubic Chunks mod to remove the game's depth and height limits entirely, we can encounter the Sky Farlands, the Void Farlands, and every combination within. We'll get to that. This already seems like quite a lot, and well, it is, but that's what I'm here for. Later on, I'll explain why the Farlands happen, but for now, let's get started with the first Farlands. We need to rewind the clocks all the way back to February 27th, 2010. This is the very first version of Minecraft to have infinite terrain generation, but as you can see, this terrain is a lot more basic than what we have today. If you were to try and travel to the Farlands in this version, you would encounter a wide array of visual glitches not all that dissimilar to what I showed off in this video. But thanks to a mod provided by RVH, we can just get rid of these problems so I can get on with the video. Minecraft's first ever Farlands appeared over 33.5 million blocks away from the spawn point. These Stonewall Farlands have a little bit of variation from world to world. They can generate as a solid wall, they can have these spikes that oscillate every 4 blocks, or the whole thing can be recessed in by 4 blocks, giving way to a thin but very long chasm that goes all the way down to the bottom of the world. Once you go past these initial 4 blocks, the whole thing is just one big, solid, never-ending field of stone, and the corner Farlands within this version are also just stone. This specific version of Minecraft has no cave or ore generation, but the versions of InfDev that came right after this did reintroduce those elements, and that does affect how the Farlands look. It's kinda weird. 2 weeks later, on March 27th, Minecraft's terrain generation would fundamentally change from the classic style of old to an all-new world generation system. But this is not the terrain of Minecraft Alpha. This terrain generation had a much thicker hill structure, and it had a Farland shape entirely unique to it. This was also the version of Minecraft that moved the Farlands from 33.55 down to 12.55 million blocks. The next major change to the Farlands terrain happened on April 20th, 2010, and gave it the shape that I know you're all familiar with. I want to start off this section with something that I've never properly explained before. Why are the Farlands shaped like this? Well, I finally understand it, so let's break it down. The Minecraft overworld surface is dominantly shaped using a pair of 2D Perlin noise maps called low noise and high noise. These are then blended together using a third noise map called selector noise, with its purpose being to just blend the other two together. I feel like this is intuitively kind of difficult to understand, so let's see it visually. In front of us is a from the side, 2-dimensional slice of a Minecraft world. To make this as easy as possible, let's crank up the factor or scale slider on both of them. It already kind of looks like the Farlands. Now, watch what happens when I change the period slider for either of them, which is stretching and squeezing that noise map. Now, it's visually obvious that there are 2 noise maps because it's easy to tell them apart. Okay, let's keep one of them stretched, one of them squeezed, and then change the offset slider for selector noise. Now can you see what's going on? Selector noise takes both of them and blends them together. As you might have intuitively gathered, the shape of the Farlands happen when this factor scale goes wildly out of control within the range of a single Minecraft block. But why? Do you remember this image from earlier? It's a noise map with a bunch of arrows on top of it. But these arrows are how the noise map itself forms. The arrows start out as points on a grid, and the underlying math determines where they point. On average, they point towards areas of more white. White means land, black means air, and a perfect gray is where that transition happens. Well, deep within Minecraft's code lies an equation that aids in smoothing it out a little. And part of how that equation is formed is by taking any given terrain coordinate with its decimal point minus that same terrain coordinate, but with the decimal rounded off. This is always supposed to equal a value between 0 and 1. But there's a problem. This left number is a floating point number, which effectively has no limit, and this right number is an integer, which maxes out at 2.147 billion. When this value maxes out, it does not change anymore. So then, what happens if we were to do this minus this? You would get a number that is much higher than 1. And when that happens, the scale of Minecraft's terrain does this. Yeah, when Minecraft's terrain exceeds 12.55 million blocks, that first equation is able to escape the safe zone of 0 to 1, which then gets raised to the power of 5, and it causes the scale of Minecraft's terrain noise to become effectively infinite, at least within the boundaries of a Minecraft world. Next question. Why are the Farlands tunnel-shaped? Simple. The equation that calculates Minecraft's final noise map gets locked to a static, unchanging value along your direction of travel, so it no longer even really resembles a noise map and only changes along the axis perpendicular to the Farlands. Since this value does not change as you travel deeper into the Farlands, we get tunnels. But what happens when both the X and Z coordinates exceed 12.55 million blocks? Well, as I'm sure you're all familiar with, we get the corner Farlands. Welcome to the stack, the corner Farlands, a scene perhaps more mysterious than the edge Farlands. How do we even go about explaining why these are shaped the way that they are? Well, if you've kept up with me thus far, it's quite simple. Within the corner Farlands, the low and high noise maps are frozen in a fixed state, but selector noise is not. To make this as easy as possible to understand, I'm going to take a shortcut. When Minecraft's selector noise breaks 1.004 billion blocks out, this is what the terrain will look like when the blending it provides no longer occurs at all. Minecraft is just made up of never-ending, never-changing, flat layers. Let's use this specific layer at the end of the corner Farlands as an example. To my left, the layer is just never-ending and flat, and to my right, that very same layer is still there, but it's all broken up, and that's solely because of selector noise. Whenever a distinct layer drops down or cuts off, whether it be like this or with plateau-like hills, that is selector noise doing its thing, and that is why the stack takes on the shape that it does. In order to move on with this Farlands iceberg, we need to back up. Remember before how I mentioned that Minecraft's selector noise breaks at 1.004 billion blocks? Welcome to the Farther Lands, the next tier of this iceberg. Just as the low and high noise breaking causes the Farlands, the next noise map to break in this chain of insanity is the selector noise, meaning the low and high noise can no longer be blended together at all anymore. But why 1 billion blocks out? Well, just as those two increased at a frequency of 171.103 per block, selector noise only increases by 2.138 per block. So here we are. The Farther Lands are the last unique set that we can witness within the boundaries of a Minecraft world, or at least that's what they want you to think. Minecraft in its unmodified form has two world gen limitations that we need to break in order to go further down this iceberg. The first is the height and depth limit. Long story short, Minecraft world chunks for versions 1.2 through 1.17 are 16 by 16 by 256 blocks and are horizontally stitched together as the world generates. This works just fine for the limitations that we just covered, but what about the limitations that occur vertically? 256 blocks of height is just not gonna cut it anymore. Thankfully, there exists a mod that changes Minecraft's world chunks to generate instead as 16 block cubes and allows for them to be stitched together both horizontally and now vertically without limitation. While Minecraft's low and high noise break at 12.55 million blocks horizontally, they break at double that distance vertically, making way for the Sky Farlands and the Void Farlands. This is where the Farlands iceberg begins to lose sunlight. One key item to note is that the entrance to these Farlands are not visibly stretched like they are for the Edge Farlands. The reason for that lies in where these Farlands occur. They are at double the distance from their horizontal counterparts, meaning that the low and high noise scale at half the frequency vertically, meaning the Edge Farlands stretch vertically, but these ones do not. If your brain isn't as fried as mine was researching this video, then you may have already realized that if we can have a far and farther lands, that means we also have to have vertical variations for both of those as well. Here's some more food for thought. What happens if you're in the corner Farlands and you move vertically all the way through the Void Farlands and into the Void Fartherlands? Well, you would be in the corner Void Fartherlands. I don't know how else to describe it, but I do know how to show it. This tesseract looking thing is a 3D outline representation of the entire Farlands stack. The inner glowstone portion is meant to represent Minecraft's normal terrain. When we enter this green bit, that's me representing the Edge Farlands. If I go up a layer, Edge Sky Farlands. One more up, Edge Far Sky Fartherlands. Okay, this is getting out of hand. What do you mean there are two sets of Farlands beyond this? The Farther and Farthest Lands? So here we are, at the last two set of Farlands that we can witness within the boundaries of a 32-bit Minecraft world. In order to actually get to them, we're going to have to use 1.12's customized world features because these Farlands actually appear so far away that they are multiple quadrillions of blocks away, which is far beyond what our 2.147 billion limit is. The Farther and Farthest Lands appear at the location where the low and high noise map breaks, but instead at their 64-bit equivalent distances. If we take the highest 64-bit number and divide it by the highest 32-bit number, and then multiply that by where the Far and Farther Lands are, that is where the Farther and Farthest Lands will respectively appear. Whether or not these Farlands would be noticeable in-game if you could even travel to those coordinates without mods is a matter of debate, and unfortunately, it's difficult for me to really even explain what's going on here. That's where this whole discussion kind of falls apart, and also changes in scope. If I wanted to continue from this point on, I would need to use a pretty game-changing mod that allows for us to travel beyond Minecraft's 32-bit limit and into the 64-bit range of coordinates. But I have a personal reservation with that for this video. This mod really is game-changing. It radically alters Minecraft's code so much to even allow for world generation out that far. Opening up that Pandora's box and diving into all of those limitations would honestly have to be its own video. For now, given that we've hit our theoretical limit for the time being, let's take yet another dive into the bowels of insanity and check out a bunch of Farlands variations that I haven't really given the spotlight to all that much up to this point. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, because that'll do it for my commentary for now. I hope you all enjoyed. My name is AntVenom, and I bid you all farewell. Thanks so much for watching.